What's up, world? It's your boy Tyrone Morgan, and I'm coming to you with another episode of the Soul Rehab Podcast.
Yay!
They wasn't ready, and I was. They were not ready. So look, anyway, we are live in full effect tonight. We are on StreamYard tonight because we are far apart from each other. We are maybe far apart in distance, but we are close knit in this podcast. So,
absolutely.
With nothing else to say, I would like to introduce the team to my left. I don't know which corner she in yours, but we have Miss Anisha Dawson, the fervent servant.
Hi, y'all. I hope you all are well tonight.
And in the bottom, I ain't gonna do it tonight. At the bottom, we have none other than the voice of reason, Miss Francis Sutton.
Hey, that's it.
Oh,
man,
we're gonna work on that. Give us some.
We do. We gonna do something about it. It's like every podcast. This is what we get. Anyway,
hey, I love y'all.
We love you. We praying for you. We're yet praying for you.
Thank you. I need all those prayers.
Get it together, sis.
I need that too. That's an inside.
Yeah, it is. We have pre-podcast again as we normally do, so we cut up a little bit. But so today's topic is forgiveness. We decided to talk about forgiveness because we've been in some kind of heavy topics in the last few weeks on the podcast. And one of the things that we think is super important to our growth and gaining peace and joy in our life is forgiveness. We must learn to forgive people. It can be one of the hardest things, but it is one of the greatest things that you can ever learn to do because forgiveness is good for the soul.
It is.
Truly it is.
So you must learn to forgive as God has forgiven us. So let's remember that. Again, quick.
Can I say something?
Can you say something?
I ask my team for forgiveness if I've done anything?
Oh my God. Exactly. Sis tried. Man. Back to the podcast.
I guess we forgive you.
You forgive me?
Yes.
We think about it. Anyway, you tried. That was a great.
I forgive you for not having my candy bag.
All right, so back to the podcast. So tonight we are talking about forgiveness. But before I start talking about forgiveness, I want to read something about unforgiveness that I feel like is very important for us. So unforgiveness to me is a hard thing. We need more than words in operating in forgiveness. To me, forgiveness is an effort for us to put forward. It's a decision that you make. So I did. I looked up a psychiatric definition of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is when you are unwilling or unable to forgive someone for hurting, betraying, breaking your trust, or causing you intense emotional pain. So that's what unforgiveness is. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is a conscious, you decide, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. That is heavy. So forgiveness is a deliberate decision that we have to make. It does not make right what happened to us, but it does make us better because we release what is on the inside of us, because that eventually it will hurt you. So one of the greatest things that I've read about forgiveness is somebody that I admire greatly, and it's Dr. Martin Luther King. And he put it like this: forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a permanent attitude. I want to read that again. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a permanent attitude. So it is something that we must permanently decide to do. And a lot of times we must learn to do it in a right attitude. I know it can be hard, but I'm just telling you, forgiveness is good to the soul, good for the soul. And you probably hear me say that 100 times a night, because I think a lot of times why we cannot grow is because we have unforgiveness in our heart. And so forgiveness, I know I mentioned unforgiveness a lot because I think you got to understand what unforgiveness look like to know what forgiveness is. So that's why you keep hearing me mention them interchangeably. But I wanted to say one more Dr. Martin Luther King quote. That's my guy. Mm-hmm. And he said, I have decided to stick with love because hate is too great a burden to bear. And that's what unforgiveness is, hatred in your heart. And love is the conscious decision that we make to forgive people daily, because people are always going to hurt you. And at the beginning and the end of it, we are relational creatures. So we will always experience some level of have to forgive people. So we must learn to know that we grow when we learn to forgive. Remember, I want to make sure, for some reason, I hammer that part home. In order to grow into the person that you need to become, you must learn to forgive. So I think I spoke long enough. So anybody else want to add, or do you want me to keep going?
I just have a little disclaimer.
Okay.
Let me be clear. I want us to be clear that forgiving someone is not denying what happened to you or that the person harmed you. It's not condoning it. It's not excusing the person's behavior. And it doesn't mean you have to go back and reconcile with the person. Forgiveness is for you. It's for your peace of mind, and it's for your healing, for you to heal your heart. Yeah. What does the word say about forgiveness? Well, there's a parable about an unmerciful slave. I think it's in Matthew 18. Anyway, Jesus equated forgiveness with canceling a debt. So you're letting go. You're letting go of something. You're letting go of hurt, of pain, of anger, of resentment. The word also says that love is unselfish, and that's the basis for true forgiveness. It does not keep account of an injury.
Right.
Correct. So one of my favorite verses, Matthew 5:44 says, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You got to, it's a process, but you got to learn to let go and also pray and bless others who have wronged you.
Right.
It took me many years to get to that. But where I am right now, it's not difficult.
All right. Francis, you have something to add, or you going?
Sure. Again, I wrote down the same definition you wrote. Forgiveness is a choice, a conscious, deliberate decision. I want to keep saying that. A conscious, deliberate decision. So it's a choice. We're deciding to do something. If you choose to unforgive, that's also a choice. Mm-hmm. You said something, Matthew 18:21-22, it says, Peter asks how many times he should forgive his brother or sister who sins against me. Up to 70 times, Jesus answered. I tell you, not 7 times 77. And that's paraphrasing it. But also, this is a quote, forgiveness is not weak. It takes courage to face and overcome powerful emotions. And that's a quote by Desmond Tutu. Oftentimes people see forgiveness as if somebody forgives somebody as them being the weak person. Forgiveness does not mean that you are weak. It's a choice for you not to be bitter and to hold anger. And what bitterness and hate does, it consumes us. It consumes our whole entire body, mind, and heart. And it is a process to let go, to work on healing. But the first step is, I think the first step is acknowledging our emotions over the hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
And then first you have to acknowledge your emotions. over the hurt or what hurt you or caused you pain. And then the next step is you're choosing to forgive. And I guess I'll say what I believe the next step is after that, but I'll let y'all go ahead.
I just heard you say acknowledge, and I think that's very important that you recognize and acknowledge your emotions, your hurt, and your pain. But the key to that also is to not let it define you.
All right. Yeah. Because the acknowledge is super important, because a lot of us won't even acknowledge that somebody hurt us, and we just have a little. One of the things that I really helped me see when I was not working in forgiveness is when I see a person, my response, my physical response. If somebody can change my attitude when I see them walk in the room or hear their name, it means I need to forgive. There's an area I need to work on in forgiveness. So that's one of the things that I use for me to recognize that forgiveness, I was not operating in forgiveness. And so what I want people to understand, that forgiveness is also a process. It is levels to forgiveness. I think some things that you can more willingly forgive easier. And there's some things, depending on how much of a scar, and really sometimes the harder the forgiveness is because you've experienced something over and over and over again. And so that makes it even harder. So I think we have to learn that there've been times that I thought I had forgiven somebody, and they still this one little thing or something I couldn't really get by. So I had to recognize that I had to acknowledge that I didn't operate in forgiveness. And so you said something about holding anger and resentment. So the one thing that God always gives me some type of acronyms, and he gave me an acronym for the word grudge. Grudge, the acronym he gave me was a good reason you don't grow ever. That's what a grudge is. It is a good reason you don't grow ever. Because I'm telling you, I don't care who you are, how long you've been dealing. If you deal with unforgiveness, it operates somewhere in your body, and it will keep you from growing, because you always will have that attitude, that anger, that resentment towards people that will keep you in a spot that the devil can play with your mind all the time. He can always send somebody to trigger something for you because we won't deal with it. And not dealing with it is actually not acknowledging it. You think acknowledging is something simple that people easily do, but it's not. I've been hurt by people, and I don't even think I really realized that I was hurt by them until something else triggered the memory of something that they done. So when I feel them triggers, I acknowledge, okay, there's something wrong with that. I shouldn't be thinking like this, or I shouldn't be feeling like this. Where did this feeling come from? So we must also make sure that we ask ourselves the serious questions about the things that we experience when we try to work with forgiveness.
So piggybacking off what you said, and we're talking about feelings and emotions and acknowledging hurt. It's a good idea to address that hurt. You know, we always say Jesus and a therapist, and we mean that. Emotional pain can look like anxiety, depression, anger, lack of trust, self-loathing, low self-esteem. So it also can affect your confidence and your ability to change. So when you identify and acknowledge your pain, you know, you're doing what you need to do to heal. You got to do whatever you got to do to heal. And I'll tell you in advance, the more pain or trauma you have endured, the more forgiveness you'll have to give others.
Right. That is true. So true.
And like we said, forgiveness is a choice. So you got to choose forgiveness, and you absolutely have to extend mercy.
Yes.
Yeah. All that is so true. Oh my God, that's so good. I was thinking, you know, when we don't forgive, we're actually punishing our own selves.
Yes.
And I'll let y'all expound on that.
So this is what when I hear that, it's actually, you don't really see that until you acknowledge that you're dealing with unforgiveness. And so what it does, I mean, this is what I've learned. Most of the time, when we dealing with a level of unforgiveness, that unforgiveness stay on our mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we manifest in our life. I am a firm believer in that what you think on is what shows up in your life. And so some of our dysfunction, some of the reasons why we struggle with things, some of the reasons why we can't focus is because we always focusing on some unforgiveness in our life. And so what happens is until we learn to forgive, and remember I said forgiveness is a process. Some stuff is a little bit easier. Some stuff more deeply wounded, and it takes a little time.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get mad with yourself if you still struggle with a little bit. All you have to do is say, I have decided to forgive. That's what I used to do every time. I have decided to forgive. And that's what I would tell myself. Even when your emotions is not going to be feeling it by no means. You're not going to be wanting to say it because you're going to remember what they did. But what happens is you stay on that stuff. And I want you to make sure you know, because you know when there's somebody right now that you're thinking about while you listen to this podcast that you have not forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it means when you hear their name or you see their face or you hear something they said, even a voice, you know how that makes you feel. So that's harboring hate in your heart, and that's unprocessed pain. Unprocessed pain always shows. So when you choose to decide to operate with forgiveness, it's almost like you taking a weight off your back,
Mm-hmm.
and you giving that weight to God, because you need to realize that forgiveness, especially if we operating as Christians in this world, forgiveness is something that God gives to us freely. All we have to do is ask for it, and He gives it to us freely. And while we own that, and I know I'm off the question, but I think it's a rant time for me.
Glow.
So we
glow.
and that most definitely is an
Jesus.
inside joke. You made me forget what I was going to say now. But it was a rant about us. Oh, I forgot what I actually was going to say, but I feel like, okay, so I don't want us to get get in your mind, and I think Anisha hit on it earlier, that we agree with you ignoring your feelings, because we don't. That's what we need. That's what we mean by acknowledge. We're not saying that what they did was right. We're not saying the way you feel is wrong. But what we really telling you is that you must decide, because this will eventually manifest. It's like a seed, and that seed will continue to grow because somebody gonna put water on it. You'll end up putting some guards up around your life. You'll put walls up around you when you should have a gate. I heard somebody say that. I thought that was an amazing analogy that they use. We put walls up. So when you put walls up, what walls do is it keep you in while you're trying to keep everybody else out. And so you'll get to the point that you never trust anybody. You always gotta keep my eye on for them, you know. That's why I don't fool with people like that. You know, you start saying you make all these, and they call inner vows. You make all the inner vows, and what happened? The inner vows will start manifesting in your life. So what you will see is you'll never be able to trust anybody, never be able to let anybody close to you, just because of that one thing. And listen, we are created for relationship. God when He made man, He created a woman right after that, because He said it was not good for man to be alone. And so this is what I'm saying. We are created relational creatures. We are created to function well and grow in relationships in our lives. Mm-hmm. So if you can't trust anybody, there's no way that God put you on this earth to be Rambo, a one woman show. He did not do that. But what we have to do is, when we start the forgiveness process, we know, trust me, we know that the pain is not gone. But what we want you to realize is that the pain must go. And you must let that pain go. It's a conscious choice to do what is right for you. Because at the end of the day, that person that you still probably holding a grudge against, and I think this is where I was going to get at, that you holding a grudge against, is happy. They whistling. they having a good time. They on to the next person. They on to the next friend who can do something for them. They ain't even thinking about you, and you thinking about them every day, like every time you see them. And so this is what I want you to get, and I don't want you to never forget this. It is not worth carrying somebody else's weight around the rest of your life when they ain't even thinking twice about you. They're not. So anyway, that's my rant. I gave y'all about 5 minutes.
That was good. That was good.
It was good. It was good stuff though. Oh Jesus. So I keep hearing us say it's a decision, and it is. It's a conscious decision. And I think one of the primary things is to decide to not to bring harm to others because we've been hurt. Because when we're hurt and when we're angry, we can say and do some things, and we'll speak on people like they're worthless and they're unworthy of love. It's hard to accept and put into practice, but even those who have done the most horrific things still are worthy of love. We got to remember that. Again, you got to choose forgiveness and extend mercy. You got to train your mind to forgive. I shared with you guys before that, I was molested when I was younger. One of the things that I had to do in my forgiveness of that person was try to imagine or try to see things from that person's perspective. Now, again, I'm not excusing or forgiving any behavior, but my mind went to, was that person molested?
Right.
Was that person abused? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but most of the time, in a lot of, I ain't gonna say most of the time, in a lot of cases, people generally have been molested if they molest. So you got to kind of think about the trauma that they may have faced. Maybe they were neglected. Maybe they were cut off of love as a form of punishment. A lot of things could have happened. So I just think being conscious of the fact that a lot of us, or all of us, have been wounded, being empathetic will allow you to forgive more easily. Even of, the most horrible things.
Right.
And I guess what you're saying is we're just extending grace. And I want to clarify this. Forgiveness doesn't always mean that I could forgive somebody, but that doesn't mean I have to break bread with them.
Absolutely not.
That doesn't mean, because sometimes it's not safe to break bread with people that harm you or cause trauma. So let's make that clear. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm going to be calling you up on the telephone all the time or whatever. But let me say, a lot of times, let's just say, for example, if somebody does something to you at work that's not horrific, and you forgive them, when you are able to forgive them, you're able to speak to them and keep it moving. You don't wish them bad. Again, I think you spoke on it. Your body language isn't tightening it up. You're not thinking about them constantly all day or doing any kind of evil or harboring evil feelings. Forgiveness just means letting go of the hurt that someone has caused you, the pain that someone has caused you, and being able to move forward. But I also want to say this. Anytime we're dealing with healing, we always want the microwave approach to things. We want it to be fast and rapid. A lot of times things don't happen immediate. It is a process. Again, like we said, it is a conscious decision to choose, acknowledging the pain and then choosing to forgive. But things just don't happen overnight like that. I think you said every time you were around whoever or a person that caused you some harm, you had to say, I choose to forgive. Right. Sometimes it's just as simple as saying, I choose to forgive, and not letting that person dictate your whole entire life.
Right.
Our thought process.
That is it. That is the one thing that I have made. Because that's what unforgiveness is, giving somebody else control of your life.
Yes, absolutely.
Forgiveness is you taking control back of your life.
Amen.
When you don't think it's control with unforgiveness, but that person, you can be laughing, joking, having a good time. Somebody mention that person's name, they walk by, or you see a picture flash of them or something. It triggers, it spoils your whole day. Then you messed up for the rest of the day. That's a level of control that they have over you. And you want somebody that you say hurt you to continue to have control over you after you've cut ties with them. That is utterly ridiculous for me. And in my mind, I made up. I said I would not let anybody have that level of control over me because I choose to forgive. So that is a choice. Something that I was hit me, and I want to make sure I mention this. We're talking about forgiveness. The one thing I want us to learn, and we talk about a lot with us, is learn to forgive yourself. That was the one person that I worked on last about forgiving. Because what happens is when you go through traumatic experiences, you go through betrayal, you go through people who do you wrong, you internalize that thing. So you think there's something wrong with you. But what I had to do is, even though I made a bad decision, even though I didn't look at and didn't see what ended up happening, I didn't see it coming. That does not make me a bad person.
Right.
I experienced this. I will learn from this, and I will move forward and become a better person because of this. So it's a conscious effort to make sure you forgive yourself. And a lot of times you need to do that first. You need to come to the conclusion that I am worth forgiving. Because I think a lot of times we internalize things that happen to us and we think everything is our fault. We cause somebody to do something, and I don't want people to think that. And even if you've done something to partner with it, you still don't deserve what's going on in your life. So we want you to make sure that you learn to forgive yourself. And another thing I want to mention about forgiveness, I think it gives us an opportunity to partner with a person that potentially we can help change. And I'm not talking about the person that hurt you all the time. I'm talking about the people that will hear your testimony and tell you how you got by the unforgiveness in your life, how you learned that forgiving made you a better person, made you a whole person, made you see the world different. Because actually, when you start operating in forgiveness, you see the world different. You start to see that people go through things that can cause them to be the way they are. Even though you don't, to me, when you work in forgiveness, it's a whole level of love that we have. It's a whole different level of love, which allows you to be understanding of what people go through, even though they took you through. And I think that's just, maybe that's level 3 of forgiveness or whatever level you want to call it. But when you get to that level, that's when you know that God is really dealing with your heart. And so we want God to deal with our heart, but we want to be changed. We want to operate in forgiveness. So what I want you to learn tonight with forgiveness is, we keep saying it's a choice. We keep saying that you have to decide that you want to do it. But I also want you to know that it is good. The benefits of forgiveness is great. Matter of fact, it's redemption. That's what forgiveness, you get to partner with God in redeeming yourself and somebody else. So let's partner with God. Like I said, our podcast, we are all believers. And so we believe that God is the foundation of everything that we do. And so God is the foundation of forgiveness. He forgive us, so we should forgive others. And you have to be trained in mind. That means you have to control your thoughts. You can't let other people control your thoughts. You can't be around a bunch of I've been around people who tell me I shouldn't be like that. I was crazy for forgiving. And so sometimes it even helps you change your circle of friends, because you can't be around that many. People will be negative. Just because you wouldn't forgive don't mean I don't care what
That's
you say
right.
about me. That I made a choice. Because you can let somebody control you. I ain't letting nobody control me. So anyway, I've talked for a minute, so we're gonna let y'all shoot now.
So I definitely agree with what you said about forgiving yourself, because we can be our own worst critics.
Yeah.
So we have to, and Francis and I say this a lot, we have to learn to extend the same grace to ourselves that we extend to others. You got to honor yourself as a person, have some self-compassion, soften your heart towards yourself. I think once you do all those things, once you forgive yourself, it'll be easier to forgive others. And I think that after we come to that point, we need to get to a point where we can reach out to someone that we know we have hurt. I can remember being in church at the altar with my worst enemy at the time. Not that I made her my enemy. She made me the enemy. But I did say some things that I probably shouldn't have said, but I know I shouldn't have said. So we, at the altar, forgave each other and we left it there. So now today when we see each other, we can have a conversation. We can enjoy a laugh, and we always end with a hug.
Right.
I never thought that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, it is. And that is the power of forgiveness.
I mean, that's good. It is.
True. So true. And I like what you said about the conversation. I think sometimes a lot of things can be solved with another person with a simple conversation. Us sitting down and talking and communicating if we are able to. Because a lot of times in our mind we make assumptions and that is not what the person meant or and until we actually do have those conversations where we could freely listen to what another person's saying, sometimes we really are harboring feelings that just don't even make sense. Right. We're carrying a load that we wouldn't even have to carry if we would just sit down and talk. So we're burdening ourselves down with a weight that almost seems impossible. And I constantly, and I agree with everything that was said prior. In my forgiveness journey, I was always the last one to be forgiven, to forgive myself. I would beat myself up constantly for situations or, I felt that I was always the cause of different things that had transpired, and I would forgive others, but I still wasn't forgiving myself. Mm-hmm. And just giving ourselves a little bit of grace, a little bit of mercy. A lot of times we're harder on ourselves than we are on other people. And sometimes we have to take a step back and just forgive ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you something that God gave me another acronym that God gave me that I learned that I must wave my flag. And the flag is forgiveness, love, and grace. And I wave my flag at myself sometimes because I need it. And I don't know if it's a part of the mercy gift or it's just human nature, but a lot of times, and I like to try to be accountable when I do stuff that I think is wrong. And so I will always try to I will internalize it, but in internalizing it, I would wear it. And I never would take it off. Because I had to find a way that it made sense. And the only thing that I know I can deal with is me. So I will make it my fault. Even though it may not, even though a lot of times it won't, I would always make it my fault. I could have done this better. I should have done this. And so in learning to wave my flag, I had to learn to hold it and wave it for myself and start waving it and giving it to other people. Because forgiveness, love, and grace, I need that. But I need to have it for myself also, because I'm not healthy trying to always run through my mind how I could have done something different when regardless. And that made me think about something. And it was a question that I had, and I'm going to ask it. And it's a random question, so y'all get ready. So how many times or how often do you think that, do you think you should give forgiveness, as in giving an apology to something that we may have done that we thought people have done wrong? Because what I found out about that, sometimes I think people can be expecting something that they're not even willing to give. And I have done some apologies for the part I played in some things, but I just want kind of like we'll expect somebody to forgive. And we'll do somebody wrong and we won't say, I'm sorry, or, maybe it shouldn't have happened like this, or whatever. But we'll have an expectation for other people to do something that we're not willing to do. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to work on in this season of my life is not having an expectation of somebody that I don't have for myself. So y'all want to answer that?
I think we talked about this the other day, and I just simply say, you need to be who you expect others to be.
Right.
Therefore, if you expect forgiveness from someone else, you need to be able to forgive someone else. Maybe not that same person, but others. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in unrealistic expectations, and for me, that would be unrealistic. Right. If I can't, if I expect others to forgive me, but I can't forgive anyone else, that don't make sense to me.
All right, let me.
I guess I disagree.
Okay, let's hear it. That's what I'm here for.
I guess I disagree because I feel like with us carrying the mercy gift, we're more forgiving than most people. And I say that, and I've learned to not expect me out of other people, and that was my downside. I was always expecting people to act like me, and again, we can't expect people to be us. We're Christ followers, so we are more forgiven if we're following Christ. I can't expect somebody that is in the world to be as forgiving as I am. Because they don't carry the same standards that I carry. And I found that I often get hurt because I want people to be me and I are to be more Christ-like followers. So I just disagree on that level. I do believe that people should be able to apologize. And if you're not able to apologize or admit that you're wrong, that is a red flag for every kind of relationship. We as parents have to ask for forgiveness. If you're in a relationship, you have to ask for forgiveness. All relationships, we do things as a teacher. I don't always have every answer that's correct. So I might have to say, oh, I'm sorry, you did have that correct. So I just disagree with that.
So let me give an explanation. So what I'm really talking about is, am I willing to forgive? Am I willing to forgive others and not just expect forgiveness from somebody else? So that means, do I tell people I'm sorry when I do something wrong? And so that's what I mean. That's what I'm really talking about. Am I willing to say it? Because I don't expect them to say nothing. You have to grow past that, because that's really not mature thinking. Because forgiveness is for you. You got to get that in your head. And look, this is the thing. So when somebody tells you I'm sorry, do we actually believe it? Because a lot of times people don't. They're like, he didn't even say it right. She didn't even say it right. She ain't mean that. And so what do you want to hear? Even if I'm sincere about it, you still have the ability not to believe it. Or then you get into you shouldn't have did this, shouldn't have did that. So to me, when somebody say it, it really don't, maybe to us, because we carry a mercy gift, we may receive it a little different. But for the majority, I've heard people give apologies, and I hear people being sincere about their apologies, and I heard them apologies get shot down. No, you know what I'm saying? And so what does the word do for us? Does it change the pain? Does it change the hurt? Does it change anything about it? So that's why I say it's very important for us to realize that even if you hear the I'm sorry, it might not change nothing. You still have to learn how to deal with the pain that you experience. So let's more focus on the pain that you experience and learn how to deal with that and unpack that thing and find out if it's a deeper root than that. Because I've been hurt by something somebody didn't do that had happened in my childhood, as in, like, there were times that I don't really share my feelings a lot, but when I do, I listen to what I said. I expect people to listen. But when they don't listen, I get in my feelings about it, because it's like, I don't even hardly talk about my feelings. So I'm going to sit here and tell you ain't even going to take the time to listen. So whose fault is that? I'm hurt. I'm in my feelings about stuff, and I didn't express that. I should express, like, look, I really need you to listen. If you ain't got time, let me know. I'll call you back. I'm gonna call somebody because I really need you to listen. But I have an unreal, like we talked about earlier, unreal expectation of you to understand that since I don't talk much, and when I'm ready to talk, you should be listening. And then I can have unforgiveness in my heart because you weren't willing to listen to me and you didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I think, we can have harbor some unforgiveness and not willing to forgive because other people don't know that they wronged you. And so let's kick that habit. Let's make sure we communicate better.
Yeah, I definitely when you said that I guess a lot of times that goes back to like childhood experiences and stuff. So I think the key to that is to forgive the person at the root of your pain, whether it's a parent, you're older, it's a spouse or a friend, because as you see, it's going to impact other parts of your life and your relationships. So you got to get to the root of it and forgive that person so that you can have healthier relationships with others. And a lot of times I think that's what we don't do. We don't, as we said before, we don't address things. We don't acknowledge it and we don't get to the root of it. So we holding on to this stuff for all these years and it's getting in the way because we haven't unpacked it and we haven't dealt with it. And then we need to let it go.
Yeah.
And I want to say this, and we're really going to have to wrap it up. I want an apology. And I mean, I really wanted that apology. I felt I deserved that apology. And the Lord spoke to me. He was like, you got to be okay if you never get that apology. I was like, but I really deserve this apology. And the Lord was like, it's not going to change the situation, even if you get the apology. It's not going to change what you've experienced, the trauma you went through, even if you get the apology. So you have to sometimes be okay without getting I'm sorry or the apology. And I do want you to go ahead and wrap it up, but I'm going to leave you with one scripture in my closing, my one closing.
Is that a hint? Is that a hint for me?
Not to drop no shade. Ephesians 4:32. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you.
Very good. So in my closing, I'll say this. I think it's important to we talked about our mind and our feelings. I think it's important, and as we said, it's a heart thing. So it's important to develop a forgiving heart. So the way to do that is when we overcome our pain and our suffering, we're oftentimes moved to help others endure their suffering and make it through their experiences, which is why we have this podcast. So this is an avenue or outlet for others to address their own suffering and their hardships. So we want to see people healed and living healthy, functional lives. Seeing other people heal brings joy to your heart.
Amen.
Therefore, it'll be easy to extend forgiveness and mercy to others. It transforms you. I'm very grateful for, and I wasn't one time, but I'm very grateful for, the pain and the suffering, because it has made me who I am today. And I'm able to forgive others. I'm able to forgive and extend that grace and mercy to others. And I just feel like when you do this, it frees you up. Like you were saying, you take a weight off. It frees you, and then you're able to love on a wider and deeper scale.
All right, that's true. So true. In my first closing, we have.
Francis, you had something though, didn't you? You had a rebuttal? Oh, okay.
Glow. No, she don't have one.
Wrap it up.
But anyway, what I was going to say is one of the greatest gifts that Jesus has expressed to us is compassion. And what I feel compassion is, and I want to put it simply as I can, compassion is really being able to put your foot in somebody else's shoes and see how they're walking. That's basically what compassion is you having the ability to experience or feel what somebody else went through. And so what I believe about that is that it most definitely changes your heart. There is times that I see people experience stuff and my heart instantly goes out to them. And that's because God dealt with some unforgiveness in my heart. I'll give this little quick story in my second closing that that I think it would help you say. So I experienced something, and one day God came to me and told me that he needed me to tell somebody I'm sorry. And I'm like, I said, do what? Tell them I'm sorry. Like, God, they owe me an apology. You talking about tell them I'm sorry? I said, ain't no way I'm doing that. And he just kept dealing with me about it and dealing with me about it until eventually I remember the day I cried, I kicked, screamed, did my little toddler tantrum, and I did it. But what God was showing me in that moment is that if you're willing to do something that I asked you to do, knowing you think you deserve what you're going to give, it will teach you a valuable lesson. And that lesson that I learned is that regardless of how I feel, there are things that God he won't reveal to you. He will have you do that later on will impact you in your life. And so that's what that moment was for me. It gave me a realization of how God feels when I do wrong. And I don't tell him I'm sorry. I don't repent. I don't do nothing. So that I got to share in his pain. And I get to understand something from a different. And at that time, and I'm telling you, it took me a couple of years to process this thing, and I still would throw a tantrum about it. But and what I really want you to get in my third closing and final is that don't let unforgiveness control your heart. Learn to release your heart. You want your heart guarded, and you want a gate around it. You don't want to build walls around it because walls keep you in. So learn to release your heart. Learn to release hate. And look, it is not. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm not going to tell you that your emotions agree with it. But what I will tell you is worth the process. So go through the process.
Be yourself.
And be well. So we're about to close. Thank you for joining us again on the Soul Rehab Podcast. We hope that we add value to your life. We hope that we've said something tonight that will help you with forgiveness. We hope that we'll say something on our future podcast, which you can have the opportunity to participate in by sending us an inbox, sending a message to somebody, and we will cover a topic. Hey, even if you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can be a guest. So just reach out to us. We want to be of value to the community and the people who watch the podcast. So please continue to support us, and we appreciate the love. So with nothing else left to say, we would like to tell you peace
out
and
be well.